Hello everyone. Today, I want to address a topic that deeply affects many of us, especially those in their late 50s, 60s, and beyond, the growing number of older men living alone. It's a difficult reality, but one we need to understand. As time passes, many men find themselves without the companionship they once had or hoped for. This loneliness is shaped by complex social, cultural, and personal factors that have transformed what it means to be a man, partner, and father over the years. Societal changes have redefined relationships, making it challenging for older men to navigate love and companionship. Divorce, the loss of a spouse, or never marrying may leave many feeling isolated as they age. In this discussion, I'll explore 9 key reasons behind this trend, helping to shed light on why so many older men feel alone and why finding connection in later life can be such a challenge. Let's take a closer look together. 1. The influence of social media. One of the biggest cultural shifts we've witnessed in recent decades is the rise of social media platforms. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and dating apps have completely transformed the way people interact, meet, and form relationships. For those of us who grew up in a time when relationships were built face-to-face, the world of online interactions can feel alien, even hostile. For women, especially younger ones, social media provides a constant stream of validation. A woman can post a picture on Instagram and receive hundreds of likes and comments from men telling her how beautiful she is. This kind of attention can create a distorted sense of self-worth, leading many women to believe they deserve only the most attractive, successful men. For older men, this new reality can feel daunting. The dating landscape has become a competition based largely on appearance, and many of us simply don't feel equipped to compete. Dating apps, which often prioritize looks above all else, can feel like a game we're set up to lose before we even begin. While we may have a wealth of life experience, wisdom, and emotional maturity to offer, these qualities don't always come across in a profile picture. As a result, many older men feel invisible in a world of social media-driven dating, where superficial judgments often take precedence over deeper connections. It's a harsh reality, but one that many of us have had to come to terms with. 2. The changing standards of attraction. When we were younger, the rules of attraction were simpler. Back then, a man's value was determined by his character, his ability to provide, and his willingness to be a steady and reliable partner. Looks mattered, but they weren't the primary focus like they are today. As we aged, it was expected that our wisdom, stability, and life experience would make us attractive to potential partners. Unfortunately, today's society doesn't always appreciate that. The modern world is obsessed with youth and physical appearance. From Hollywood to social media, the images of beauty we are bombarded with are often unrealistic and unattainable, particularly for those of us who have entered our later years. Older men, who may have once been seen as distinguished or mature, are often overlooked in favor of younger men who better fit today's idealized standards of attractiveness. Let's face it, many of us have let our physical health decline over the years. We may have gained some weight, developed a few wrinkles, or lost some of the energy we once had. This isn't a personal failure, it's simply the natural course of aging. But in a world that idolizes youth and fitness, it can feel like we no longer stand a chance in the dating pool. It's not just about looks, either. Society places a high value on financial success, and for many older men who have retired or are approaching retirement, that can be another blow to our sense of worth. We may no longer be earning a high income or climbing the career ladder, and in a world that equates financial success with personal value, that can make us feel even more invisible. 3. The desire for connection in later life. As we grow older, one thing becomes abundantly clear: connection is what makes life meaningful. When we're younger, we often get caught up in work, family, and striving for success. But as the years pass and we begin to reflect on what truly matters, we realize that the relationships we've built and the connections we've made are what give our lives depth. For older men, the desire for connection becomes even more pronounced. Many of us find ourselves yearning for companionship, for someone to share our lives with. However, the avenues to find that connection feel limited. We may have been through divorces or the loss of a spouse, and those experiences can leave us feeling guarded and reluctant to open ourselves up to the possibility of being hurt again. Yet despite these challenges, the desire for connection remains strong. Whether through rekindling old friendships, finding new communities, or even taking the brave step of entering into a new relationship, the pursuit of connection is a vital part of life, no matter our age. 4. The feminist shift and changing attitudes. Society has changed dramatically over the past few decades, particularly regarding gender roles. When we were younger, men and women had more clearly defined roles. Men were expected to provide for their families, while women were expected to nurture and care for the household. These roles were foundational to most relationships. However, today those roles have shifted significantly. Women are more independent, empowered, and self-reliant than ever. They have careers, financial independence, and the freedom to live life on their own terms. While this has been a positive change in many ways, it has also made relationships more complex for older men, who were raised with a different set of expectations. Women no longer need a man to provide for them financially. They can do that themselves. Instead, they seek emotional connection, shared responsibility, and a partnership that goes beyond traditional gender roles. For many older men, this shift can feel disorienting. We were raised to believe that being a good provider was enough, but in today's world, it's no longer sufficient. This doesn't mean that women don't want relationships, but it does mean that they are looking for different qualities than they were 30 or 40 years ago. They desire partners who are emotionally available, who share in life's responsibilities, and who are willing to meet them as equals. For older men who may have spent decades being the breadwinner and protector, this can be a difficult adjustment. 5. The modern image of masculinity. Another major shift we've seen in recent years is the changing definition of masculinity. In our youth, masculinity was about being strong, stoic, and self-reliant. It meant taking responsibility for your family, working hard, and providing for those you loved. Emotions were to be kept in check, and vulnerability was seen as weakness. However, today, many traditional masculine traits are viewed with suspicion or even disdain. Assertiveness, toughness, and ambition are now seen as problematic in many circles. Society values emotional openness, vulnerability, and sensitivity, qualities that many older men were never encouraged to develop. This shift has left many men feeling confused and unsure of what it means to be a good man in today's world. We've spent our lives being providers, protectors, and problem solvers, but now those qualities seem undervalued. The rules have changed, and for many older men, it feels like we're being asked to play a game without knowing the rules. This confusion can lead to frustration, and for some men, it leads to withdrawal from relationships altogether. If the qualities that once made us valuable are no longer appreciated, why bother trying to meet new expectations that feel foreign and uncomfortable? 6. The legal landscape of relationships. One of the most painful realities many older men face is the legal and financial challenges that come with relationships, particularly divorce. In the U.S., the legal system often seems to favor women in divorce settlements, leaving men with significant financial burdens. Alimony, child support, and the division of assets can leave men in precarious financial positions, even well into their retirement years. For those of us who have been through divorce, the prospect of entering into another serious relationship can feel daunting. The fear of losing even more, whether it's financial security or emotional stability, can keep many men from pursuing new partnerships. It's not that we don't want companionship, rather, the risks involved often feel too great. The legal system is designed to protect both parties in a marriage, but in practice, it often leaves men feeling like they got the short end of the stick. After experiencing one or more divorces, the idea of embarking on another relationship that could end the same way is enough to make many men decide that it's safer to remain alone. 7. Loneliness as a choice. For some men, while loneliness is often seen as something to be avoided, it becomes a conscious choice. After years of trying to meet the expectations of society, family, and partners, many older men decide that solitude, while difficult, is preferable to the emotional toll of maintaining a relationship. It's not that these men don't want companionship or don't value relationships. Rather, after a lifetime of giving their all in relationships only to feel drained, unappreciated, or taken advantage of, they conclude that the peace and quiet of being alone is more appealing than the potential heartache of trying again. This decision to remain alone isn't necessarily born out of bitterness or resentment. For many men, it's simply a matter of self-preservation. After years of shouldering the burdens of relationships, they choose to focus on themselves, their interests, and their own well-being. It's a tough decision, but for many men, it feels like the best option. 8. Eastern versus Western values in relationships. For those of us who have traveled, the differences in how relationships are viewed in various parts of the world can be striking. In Western cultures, particularly in the US and Western Europe, traditional gender roles have largely been abandoned. Women are encouraged to pursue careers, be independent, and live life on their own terms. Men, in turn, are expected to adapt to this new dynamic, where partnership is based on equality and shared responsibility. Conversely, in other parts of the world, particularly in Eastern Europe, traditional values have remained more intact. In these cultures, men are still viewed as protectors and providers, while women embrace their femininity in ways that feel more familiar to those of us raised with similar values. There is a sense of balance in these relationships, where both partners have clearly defined roles that complement one another. For older men in the US, this contrast can feel striking. The social narrative in the West has changed so much that it sometimes feels like the values we were raised with no longer apply. But in places like Eastern Europe, there is still an appreciation for the traditional roles that men and women have played for centuries. 9. The loss of beauty in modern society. Another painful truth is that modern society seems to have lost its appreciation for beauty, both physical and spiritual. There was a time when beauty was something to be admired, whether in the form of a well-crafted piece of art, a beautiful landscape, or the quiet dignity of a long-lasting relationship. Today, however, beauty is often mocked, ridiculed, or devalued in our culture. There's a tendency to rebel against anything that feels traditional or old-fashioned, including ideas of beauty. The qualities that once made relationships beautiful, commitment, sacrifice, and loyalty, are now often seen as burdens or outdated ideals. For older men, this loss of beauty can feel deeply disheartening. We grew up in a world that valued simplicity, grace, and elegance, and it's hard to watch those values be replaced by something more chaotic and fleeting. In conclusion, the reasons why more older men are living alone today are varied and complex. The changing standards of attraction, the influence of social media, shifting roles of men and women, and legal and financial challenges all play a part. But at the heart of it all is a simple truth: as we age, the desire for connection doesn't fade. In fact, it often grows stronger. Navigating relationships in later life is no easy task, but by understanding these truths, we can approach this stage of life with greater clarity, wisdom, and perhaps even find the companionship we're looking for. Thank you for watching the entire video. If you find these stories inspiring and motivating, please comment 1. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.